Got it. Okay, so housekeeping, right? Of course, this meeting this evening is going to be recorded, and I hope that's okay with everyone. We've started recording, and for the purposes of communication this evening, we're going to mute everybody with the hopes that if you have a questions, that we're going to save plenty of
Arlington
time.
Urban Agriculture.
Emily, if you wouldn't mind going ahead
State
and
of
muting
the
everybody.
Onion address.
Yes, I will.
Yes.
That's right, the State of the Onion address. That's too
Okay,
great. Thanks so much.
there we go.
So welcome again, welcome everyone. And we've muted everyone. If you would like to introduce yourself, please in the chat, put your neighborhood and what's your favorite vegetable. And we'll get that going in the chat. Over the course of this evening, we'll leave plenty of room for questions. So we will have time for that. But if you'd like to put any questions in the chat and get them in queue, we'll definitely answer them as they come in. By way of introductions, I should introduce myself, David Staxton, the Vice President of FOUA. We'll get into the rest of the board members, but let's introduce Emily Landsman, our Communications Officer. And Emily, do you want to introduce the rest of the board and give us any other housekeeping for the evening?
Sure. So I'm Emily Landsman. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Other housekeeping. Yeah, as David mentioned, we're going to be recording this. If you don't want to be on camera, that's fine. You can turn your camera off. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat or hold them until later. We are leaving a good portion of the meeting open for discussion. So you can hold your questions, or as I said, put them in the chat now. So on tonight, we have Kirsten Conrad, who is on our board. She's also the extension agent for Arlington Alexandria with the Virginia Cooperative Extension. Pete Riley is on our board. Say hi, Pete. Give a wave there. All right, and I apologize. I'm also letting people in at the same time, so I'm going through everyone. We have Audrey Morris. Say hello, Audrey. Give a wave there. Hello. I think we have Becky Helby, but she seems to be stuck in a field of peas. She's somewhere there. Yes, Becky is a sweet pea tonight. Let's see, who else do we have with us right now? I think for right now that might be all. We may have two of our other board members joining us later. Three of our other board members joining us later on in the evening, and we will introduce them as
That's right. Yeah, and thank you, Emily. The news, of course, that we recognize that this is a busy time for everyone, so we're appreciative of you joining this evening. Thank you very much. And look, we're fitting this in. We had a last-minute change to schedule. Even our president, Robin Broder, unable to join us this evening. So I hope you'll adjust as we delegate responsibilities and really lead a discussion about continuity, about leadership. Really, the purpose of this evening is to address where FOUA is now, but also where we're going to be, where we're going to be in 2024, and to have an open discussion and invite you to be a part of that process. So what do you say? Should we kick it off with the State of the Onion address? I mean, do we have any fancy we'll just get straight into it, because it's customary to say what the state of the union is strong, right? But the State of the Onion in Arlington is pungent. It's pungent. It's a strong smell of opportunity, and I think that's what we'd like to present this evening as a discussion around the pungent smell of opportunity in urban agriculture in a good way here in Arlington tonight. And if we wanted to talk about the programs for this year, we felt that it would be important this evening to go beyond just what's happening in the gardens, and to think in a bigger sense, a bigger scope about how does FOUA fit into Arlington? And how are we working with you, the volunteers and the interested members of the many cross sections and stakeholders that are our partners this evening? So again, just to invite you to this conversation and to kick it off and let you know that the state of the onion is definitely pungent. We've got some good onions this year. And with that, I wanted to turn it over to back to Emily. Maybe we could talk about the agenda for this evening.
Sure. So if we could, can we switch over to the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we are going to very briefly go over each of our main areas and give everyone a kind of a sense of what we do. And then we will, so our board members will be speaking for just a minute or two a piece. And then we're going to talk about the future and what we're looking forward to. And again, there's that Q&A. But before we do that, we have some questions for you. We have a poll. So we'd like to know why you decided to join us tonight. So I'm going to launch that first poll, and then if you can, it's a multiple choice.
Oh,
So,
I see it.
Okay, great. So just take a minute or two, and you can check off as many as you'd like, and just let us know why you're here. Okay, I see some answers coming in.
Great. Well, yeah, thank you. While the answers come in, and I'll go back and I'll share screen again with the, I believe with the agenda here. We're going to get kicked off here as we really want to briefly, and we do mean briefly, hit what FOUA is doing in 2023. But what was the results of the final results of the poll? Are they in? Did everybody vote?
I'm going to close it. It looks like we have almost everybody, and David, you and I might be the two who haven't participated. So I'm going to end right now, and then we'll see the results.
Oh, good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we want to hear what FOUA is up to, and then looking beyond the garden. How are we going to get people involved? That's great. That's great. So I'm going to close this and hopefully go back to share this. Can everyone see this?
Good.
Yep.
Right, so let's get into it. Let's talk about what are we doing this year. And FOUA, of course, we've inherited the legacy. This is our 8th year of operation, sort of in this sort of the guise of working together in this mission. It's sort of, we've changed a little bit, but this year we continue much of the work of the programming work of the same last year. And a lot of that centers around this fabulously successful Plot Against Hunger program. So here to give us a little bit of a recap, Becky, or are you able to is there a costume change involved, Becky? But are you there with us?
I'm here. This is what you get. All right, Plot Against Hunger. What is happening right now? It's produce bagging and gleaning, which is basically going out to a farm field with their permission and taking whatever produce they are willing to let us take. Why Plot is important? Plot may be what FOUA is best known for, yet we inherited it, as David said. We inherited it from the Arlington Food Assistance Center back in 2020. It's important because FOUA's mission is all about food for everyone. And Plot Gardens donate some or all of their produce to local food banks, some via the produce bagging program, and some donate directly to a food pantry. And with gleaning, all of that produce goes to local food banks. So how much are we talking? Well, as an example, in 2022, produce bagging donated more than 14,000 pounds of produce to local food pantries, and gleaning donated close to 40,000 pounds. That's 27 tons of fresh food. So how is FOUA involved? Well, we've written some grants and received some grants. We've got amazing volunteers. We can always use more. And we have very generous partners. And through those, we've been able to provide seeds and seedlings to some of our plot gardeners for several years now. FOUA also purchases materials for gleaning and produce bagging. The needs, long-term needs, is a more central, permanent produce bagging site. Right now, we're at Rock Spring Church at their generosity. They're giving us the space for free. It's just not really, I mean, the church is letting us use it. This is our 4th year now. But long-term, it would be nice to have something more permanent, more central. And as well, it's a lot of work, and it would be nice to have a paid coordinator position, which would be seasonal, of course. Right now, we could always use more volunteers for bagging and delivery and for gleaning, as well as grant writers. So happy to take questions later on in the program and get into more detail if necessary, but right now I'll turn it over to Emily Landsman.
So I am going to just talk about very briefly FOUA's involvement in the Arlington Food Security Coalition. So this group came out of the Food Security Task Force in 2021 and 22 to address the growing issue of food insecurity in Arlington. And so, oh, here we go. We represent, as Becky said, the fresh produce sector of Arlington, and the network of pantries that we have that we donate to is pretty significant in the county. So on this Food Security Coalition, there are pantry members, there are social services, members from social services organizations, members of the county government. And there are volunteers, there are long-term neighborhood volunteers, people who volunteer with AFAC or at another pantry. Our Lady Queen of Peace is another large one, people who volunteer with Meals on Wheels, and just people who want to help combat the issue of food insecurity in the county. I'm going to put a link to the Food Security Coalition page on the county's website. There are a number of documents and data dashboards there with all kinds of facts and figures about food security in the county. And I'm also going to put contact info for Stephanie Hopkins, who's the food security coordinator for Arlington. So if you're interested in that, I would highly recommend it. We meet once a month, and we started in January, and it's been a very positive connection that we've been able to make. So here's the info right there. Great. And moving on, I think I'm not sure who's next. I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's great. It's important for us to tie the food security angle to understand that it drives the programming component of the plot against hunger, but that there is also additional work that needs to be done. And in a broader context, Pete, one of our newest board members, Pete Riley, has really helped us look at this issue from a new perspective, a fresh perspective, as we think of the connections between FOUA and the county and Arlington County. Pete, are you with us? I think I see you on screen. Perhaps you're still muted.
Okay, I can unmute myself, huh? Thanks, Dave. Yeah. So I'm here to peel back another layer of the onion, kind of give you a broader look at the policy side, which of course food insecurity is one of our biggest goals, is to address that and improve things. We're in a pretty interesting or unique situation in Arlington. It's the smallest county in the country by physical area. There's only one smaller one, and that's in Hawaii, a small administrative unit. But we've got a huge population. We're bigger than several big cities all over. So pressure on green space. You know it well if you live here, trying to get a sports field, trying to get more parks and rec. And from our point of view, green is usually better. So, you know, the overwhelming issues are coming down the pike right and left. And the food, of course, is sort of our touchstone, but we got to look beyond that. And a lot of that is how Arlington develops and manages this tight resource we have, land. So what we try to do is support the county. There's a lot of things going on in the county. Look at storm management. If you opened your newspaper yesterday or today, you saw some serious flooding up in New York, Hudson River Valley, and Vermont. Man, this is the stuff we've got to be prepared for. You know, we had an incident a few years ago.
That's
Remember Westover and Ayers
Mhm.
that get flooded out? So we're really trying to give the county some backup and view all these issues that are emerging. We have deer control. I mean, the deer, they're abundant, as you may know if you've sometimes seen something eaten out of your garden. There's just a host of issues and development with new companies moving in. So it's an evolving role, and we're always looking for more thoughts and people who are interested. So you may not be someone who works in the dirt or wants to bag, but you might have some real great expertise to share with us on urban planning. You might be an architect background, an engineer, whatever, a policy wonk. You may be someone coming from a nonprofit that knows a lot about how organizations can tie in. So anyway, we welcome any contributions and interest. And now I'm going to tie it back to another dimension of FOUA, and that's the education, right, Dave?
Well, that's absolutely right. And we do, just to double down on that, we absolutely are looking for people beyond the garden, for people with skills that perhaps are thinking of ways to get involved beyond the traditional Plot Against Hunger program. And the development of this food security and policy focus will be something that we return to in discussion later this evening. But that's absolutely right. Thank you, Pete. Climate change, my goodness, definitely something we need to think about and talk about. But we got to learn. We've got to learn first. There's a lot to learn, isn't that right? If we're joined by Kirsten Conrad, perhaps you could share with us a little bit more about education and programming in 2023.
I'd love to, David. Can you hear me okay? Yes, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm really pleased to see so many familiar faces on this in this meeting room. And I'm the Agriculture and Natural Resources Extension Agent for Arlington County. And tonight I am here wearing two hats. You know, one of them is as a FOUA board member, and the other one is as a VCE state employee charged with educating and bringing the research-based information from Virginia Tech and Virginia State University to Arlington County. And we have three main programs in our offices, and they all support various aspects of what FOUA is doing. The Agriculture and Natural Resources Program, which is mine, focuses on urban agriculture, pesticide reduction, native plants and non-native plant management, species management too. As Pete mentioned, the problem with deer is significant. You know, we're also working on helping people understand how to mitigate problems with flooding and climate change, how to select plants and vegetable crops that will tolerate the heat and changes in the agronomy changes that are resulting. We have an FCS program, and that's the Family Consumer Services Program run by Aisha Salazar, who is a former board member of Friends of Urban Agriculture. Her program focuses on nutrition education, and they do things, education like cooking, and they support the food bank. They support the programming at low-income housing areas. And I'm very pleased to work with her. We also have a 4-H program. Most people know about 4-H, even if they don't know about Virginia Cooperative Extension. And of course, 4-H is youth leadership development education. And there are many wonderful programs in 4-H that are helping kids learn about gardening. We have master gardeners working with Boys and Girls Clubs, after school programs. Currently, we have master gardener presences in 13 schools in Arlington and Alexandria. We have programs going in 3 low-income communities where we are putting in gardens and teaching folks how to grow food. I'm really so thrilled to be partnering with FOUA on this, because what we need are some more warm bodies to help with some of these programs and the education that is required. There's also horticulture therapy programs going on with elder care programs, Goodwin House, and of course, at Langston Brown Community Center. I want to tell you that we also are working with the FOUA on the Wednesday library talks. Wednesday library talks are going on at the Arlington Central Library. They are every Wednesday, starting at about 6:30 or 7 o'clock and continuing for about an hour. We try to have them outside. They are also at the library. We also have a plant clinic, and the Master Gardeners support 5 plant clinics throughout Arlington and Alexandria that take place weekly between April and October. And you can bring your questions there and sometimes get free seeds, pick up a cooperative extension publication on gardening. They also have weekly public education classes that take place online. They are managed, the registration and the recording and closed captioning of these programs is handled through the Master Gardeners of Northern Virginia website. And you can go there and find something in the virtual classroom about nearly any subject you can think of relating to sustainable urban agriculture or other.
That's right.
One more thing, in addition to the garden support that we need, we also can use people in our offices to share the word. We need to share the word about cooperative extension and what FOUA is doing, and share the resources that are available to everybody in our communities.
That's absolutely right. And again, thank you, Kirsten, for the work of the cooperative extension. Let's give you all the credit. How about we give you all the credit for all the work that's been done? No, of course not. There's so many people involved. And I think it illustrates maybe this final point here about our partners, in appreciation for just the wealth of just the value that we have. There are so many intersections and overlapping areas where our mission work around urban agriculture is parallel with so many other partners. And I think that we actually have, I mean, again, just a few short years ago, if we had put a slide where we were thanking our partners, really there would only be 1 or 2 names, right? So as we now look at what's happening here in 2023 and look beyond, we definitely want to say thank you again to our partners that we are working with. And it shows that, again, there's so much that we have in common. But we really want to reserve a bulk of the, actually, I'm sorry, Emily, was I supposed to mention something here? Well, if you're joining us from any of these organizations on the call this evening, thank you very much. How about that? But what does it look like next year? And this is what we really wanted to reserve the bulk of the conversation time. And I'm looking at the clock. We wanted to hit 2024 by 7:24. I think we're okay. So I think the question really is, where are we? We've heard a little bit about the programming that FOUA is engaged in right now. But looking ahead to the focus, the areas where we're organized, we wanted to invite you, certainly our partners and our stakeholders, our friends of urban agriculture, to share with us a discussion about how we are structured and how we aspire to be structured. Is that right? Does that sound fair? I mean, it's that we want to share with you a vision of what that might look like. And we put together a little graphic here. There we go. That one. Yes. So again, this is an aspiring graphic. This is something that is maybe aspirational, or is something that we're looking maybe towards, but it's a living idea. That it's not finalized. This is not the holy doctrine. Rather, this is a concept map where we can see where the areas of focus and some of the relationships are. And you can see that the main 3 focus areas as we see ourselves aligning and moving into 2024 will be the continuing of the Plot Against the Hunger program, which you see on the left. And there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, I think just to categorically just say it's all in that circle, there's a lot there. But balanced against that is, you know, we want to offer more than just a service to our community that is around growing food. We also want to promote and share in educational events. So this is the events and the speakers, but it's also thinking of the school gardens and the areas of different overlap there. This is where working with partners like the Cooperative Extension and the Master Gardener program is so valuable. But again, it's a working document. And of course, the third area of focus below is the idea of this larger picture, right? The larger issues that we find ourselves in as part of the matrix, as part of the conditions of kind of the reality here in Arlington, but also regionally. You know, how does this work connect to larger issues? Starting, of course, with Arlington County, specifically issues in our work with food security, that's ongoing, but looking towards other things, with more focus towards economic development and thinking about what are the business interests towards local sustainable food production. And of course, then the advocacy involved with actually getting some sort of change in the works to actually move towards that. So again, here's just an overview. And of course, there's internal operations that we have to focus ourselves. But what we really want to talk about tonight, and I'm just going to move ahead here, is sort of the idea of, well, where are the people involved in this? If this is a focus of a plan, who is doing this work? And we'll discuss the context of that if we just go to the next slide. Yeah, there we go. So again, I mean, this is aspirational, but we wanted to share this idea as a concept. And to get your feedback, to involve you in the discussion. Does this work? What are we thinking of? Who's going to do this work? Maybe, perhaps, what are we missing? But you can see at the top, there's some board members in green. These are, you know, required by our bylaws and by the state law for nonprofit, but we've added the communications director as a position on the board. And below, we see that there are, again, the committee leads along the bottom. For each of the individual areas of focus, we imagined a committee of volunteers for the reason that we really do need to broaden the number and amount of people that are involved. Each committee would be comprised of volunteers, but they wouldn't have to be board members. And as we step up the level of coordinated work as an organization, we need more people involved with this work. So Emily, just to get you to chime in here maybe and offer some additional feedback, where do you see the volunteer coordinator position and the fundraising coordinator positions as shown on this chart? Where do you see them having a role in where we need to be next year?
Well, obviously the volunteer coordinator, I personally hope that this volunteer coordinator has a lot of work, because we have lots of programs and we have lots of people to help find the right spot. This year alone, we've expanded our volunteer base, and we have a lot of new folks coming in, and I'm really excited about that. Most of them do come in for Plot Against Hunger related programs, but we need people helping us in other parts of the organization. I think fundraising is going to be our number one. Right now, our board members work really hard to find grants. None of us are professional grant writers. That's the kind of expertise and the kind of skill that we are lacking right now. And right. Finding someone who could help us do that, I think, will help with the long-term sustainability of FOUA. As Becky mentioned earlier, we're looking for plot. We're looking for some more permanent spaces. Permanent spaces could also be an office space, could be someone who actually is as a paid employee. And that takes money, and we need help finding that money. And at the same time,
right.
again, so lots of things have to happen all at the same time. So if you have any background there, any expertise, we do have a volunteer management system. You might be familiar with Volgistics. It is a good system that helps us track hours. It helps us track events. It helps us track people. We don't share any of the information outside of numbers. So no one's ever going to get your name or info. We won't sell, trade, or otherwise give away anybody's information. It's been a really helpful tool. And there are lots of other features on there that we're not using right now. And I'd love to be able
Right.
to use them. So those are those two positions. And I hope, David, that was a
Yeah, I mean, you're
Good-
absolutely
good
right. And
overview.
the Volgistics system alone is something that over time will continue to improve, but we need someone there to leverage their networks. And same with the grant writing, the idea of fundraising. And really, Audrey, if you're still on the call, I think you could tell from share some points and perspective of the need of a treasurer and the role of a treasurer, and just how important the treasurer is to this organization. We will certainly need a treasurer as we move into next year. Do you want to share any thoughts there?
Glad to, yes. And the reason is I've been treasurer, but we are going, my term is expiring at the end of this year, or my ability under the bylaws to continue on the board. So we need a different treasurer. And a treasurer, at least if we have an outside bookkeeper, they make sure that all the information gets to that bookkeeper, but a treasurer also has to make sure, is one of the signees on we have two people who can sign checks, for instance, and have a credit card for FOUA. So it's managing the bank account, and it's making sure that the annual reporting gets done to Virginia and to the IRS, don't want to forget them, and the annually renewable payments are made on time. So it's those steps are not, but
it's important.
Yes, it's
and
required
right.
for an organization. Yes.
And it's just one example, I think, of just, again, the change that is really should be seen as an opportunity. This is a really remarkable time for the organization. And as Pete mentioned, there are some large issues. It's a remarkable opportunity for this organization. So with this map sort of laid out here, we wanted to open the mic and sort of turn this back. Isn't that right, Emily? Or was there anything else before we opened up for questions and comment?
Were we going to do the next steps yet, or is that going to be after our discussion?
Right. So I think we were going to wait on the next steps until.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, yeah. So if you have any questions, you can take yourself off mute, or you can put your question in the chat box, or your comment in the chat box, and we can read that.
That's right. Thank you. Yes, we want to just turn this back to you, and to get some feedback, some thoughts. Does this plan look like it makes sense? Does it look like something that you see that maybe there's an area that we're missing? We'd like to invite you into this discussion, and of course, to sort of use this as this opportunity to say that this is ongoing. This is a process that begins tonight, but you'll be here as we talk later on next steps. We'll talk about how this is a process that is over the next weeks and months. We'll be really ramping up and we'll talk about the timeline. Kirsten, I see a comment from Kirsten and a question from Kim, and whether or not we are a question about the grants. Yes, we have a number of grant applications that are in process, but Audrey, would you be able to answer the question about funding and our fundraising? Just to quickly talk about our fundraising in 2023.
Well, been fortunate to get grants from St. Mary's Episcopal Church and from Rock Spring Church, who, in addition to giving us free use of their space for the our bagging site, they've also given us a grant. And the National Landing Bid has given money to support the operations of HUG, the urban garden that's at Highland Park, right in Crystal City area, which is a really innovative garden that if you haven't seen it, please do. So those are the ones that I can think of at this point. I miss anything? Anybody to help me?
Starbucks.
Moving forward, there are more.
Oh, Starbucks.
Starbucks grant, yeah.
Yes, that was, what I believe it was their community foundation. They have a,
Yeah, and one of their employees recommended us.
Right.
So, grant.
So
So that was appreciated. Yes, thank you.
Kim, does that answer your question? And again, a shout out to Kim, who's been, we should introduce you, Kim, if you are on camera. If not, we'll just say thank you. Our counterpart within departments of Parks and Recreation with Arlington County, and really from the beginning, one of our core and original supporters of the Friends of Urban Agriculture. So definitely shout outs to Kim. Did that answer your question? And perhaps if you had any others, just please feel free to add. I see a question from Carol Fuller.
yeah, I think actually
and-
that's directly related to what we're about to talk about, a potential fall activity, a training
I'm
course.
sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble reading this and running the meeting at the same time, but of courses in this, so spring, we want education courses. Yes, absolutely. We would like to partner with with trainings, and absolutely to sponsor the idea of outreach through education, public engagement through education, and outreach through the idea of holding events like this. Absolutely makes sense. And plotting against hunger for schools, Highlands Urban Guard, the urban farm at Amazon's HQ2 and Area 2 Farms, Warehouse Garden in Shirlington. Lots of other topics possible. Sound interesting? Yes. And again, Carol, thank you very much for all of the work that you do, of course, to coordinate an effort. We definitely appreciate your support and the support of Livability 22202 in the National Landing area and for Highlands and the Pentagon City Civic Association in Crystal City. Thank you very much. Yeah, we definitely want to talk there. Kirsten, what's up?
Yeah, before we move too far afield, I want to remind everybody that Arlington County put together, spent a year working on a urban agriculture task force report that is still in existence and still is shaping the work of many people in the community. And of course, if you want, maybe we can find a link for that to put in the chat box if it's still current. And Kim, I assume it's still up on the website of Arlington County. But this was a group of volunteers who came together and staff members who came together to create a vision and to create a plan of some far-reaching goals as well as some low-hanging fruit that could advance the cause of urban agriculture in Arlington. And I just want to say to Emily's comments earlier, everybody on this board are volunteers. And we need to promote additional manpower, additional energy. We need to be able to create some training programs for volunteers. And I am very interested in hearing from any of you on this call who think that providing some form of basic educational outreach and training for volunteers to work in these garden support roles, whether that would be a valuable addition to the program. We can
Absolutely.
do yeah.
No, that's a fabulous idea. And really that speaks to sort of the idea of, how are we going to get there? So we've just spent a few minutes talking about some of the areas of focus. We've briefly looked at some of the roles and responsibilities, buckets that we need to fill. So what are we gonna do about this? And of course, tonight it's just we're announcing this, the State of the Onion address, that there is a plan, right? That we are in the process of sort of ramping up towards the end of the year. And that you will be hearing more from us as we want to talk about some of the ways that you can get involved. Excuse me. As we move forward. And just to put this up on screen, this evening was originally conceived of an idea that to have just a public engagement, a moment where we could all get behind and understand and literally be on the same page about what we're trying to achieve. But from this point forward, we'd like to actually meet and talk with you. We'd like to have a conversation. So we're planning a bunch of social events, and there's going to be opportunities and events and places where we can get together and actually speak face to face. And on August 3rd, just to mark your calendars. Well, actually, before we talk about some of these dates, there is a process. And of course, what you can expect to hear from us starting in August, and then again more in September, and that it will ramp up towards October, which is Urban Agriculture Month. And in August, of course, we have a day where we're going to do a volunteer outreach day, just for the purposes of really speaking with you. We've got kind of two different events, and yes, while urban agriculture can go beyond the garden, oftentimes this is where we meet. The work is done in the garden, and in the morning we're actually really fortunate to have a partnership with the Northern Virginia Conservation Trust, NVCT. I believe they're on the call if they are, but we're going to have a work day there in the morning to visit a property in North Arlington on the Turbor property that has recently been put into conservation, and there's an amazing, beautiful garden there. And it needs a little bit of tender TLC and some, so we're going to have a work day in the morning. And then in the evening, we'll have a sort of a fun social event, and we'll meet at the Hug Garden and have, like, maybe it's a pizza party. I don't know if that's what we're, if any members of the Hug team are on the call this evening, please throw a pizza emoji in the chat. But we're going to have something in the evening on the 3rd. And then the next opportunity will be at the county fair, where it's a big deal. And were we supposed to promote, Kirsten, what were we promoting tonight? It was the Witch of Ugly Vegetable competition. We wanted everybody to be reminded to submit your vegetables for into the county fair,
Right.
and to submit exhibits. Isn't that right?
The county fair competitive exhibits book is open right now on the website, and there's instructions there about how to submit your vegetables and your jam and your sowing and your flowers.
All of it.
All of it.
Submit it multiple times, Chicago style. Let's put in multiple entries. No, I love it. It's such a fun tradition. And of course, this year, the Friends of Urban Agriculture will have a table there. Fingers crossed, everything works out. Maybe we'll have a double wide table. We'll go big this year. We'll see.
Got 2 tables.
We'll look forward to seeing you there. And we'll, again, be moving this conversation forward. We'll be using this graphic to stimulate conversation, talk about engagement, and getting people signed up. We're going to go through the people that already have signed up. We have a huge database of people that have already expressed interest. And just like you on the call tonight, you have self-selected to be here. Thank you for your time. We recognize that you are interested in this work. You care enough to at least join this call on this evening. So to look at these relationships, to see where they overlap, and to reach out to people, to get people involved, and have maybe a special month in September where maybe we can do a special training event just for our volunteers to really think about how are we going to organize the work of these committees, and maybe even fill the seats and positions of a fundraiser, or maybe a plot against hunger director or volunteer director, but we better have a treasurer. Otherwise, in December, we're going to have a grim meeting. our year-end meeting will be pretty grim. But of course, before December, Urban Agriculture Month in October, right? And so we're going to have lots to do in October with speakers all month. I feel like I've talked too much here, and I should go back to the chat. I see
Yes.
pizza emojis in the chat. That's awesome.
And we also want to welcome Katie Drew, another FOUA board member who was able to hop on in between her meetings tonight. So hi, Katie. Thank you for joining.
Hi. Yeah, got me to talk when I have to go back to the general membership meeting.
We're all good. So we wanted to sort of open it up. I mean, were there any other questions about this strategy? And did anyone want to maybe talk about the opportunity or have any questions about how FOUA is structured or could be structured in the future? Question in the chat or unmute yourself and introduce yourself if you do. We'd love to hear from you.
Oh, Kirsten shared the competitive exhibits information for the county fair. I am finally planning on submitting something. So if you're a quilter, you can compete with me.
Oh, there's a hot competition on quilts?
Yes. Yes.
I was supposed to do carrots. I have to admit, I'm falling very short
well,
of the mark. The carrots are not going to make
If
it.
your carrots aren't growing, you can always, fire up that sewing machine. We do have one more question, one more poll, and if there aren't any more questions in the chat, David, are we ready for that poll?
Oh yeah, I can stop sharing here
Okay.
and hit us with the poll.
All right. So thinking about the special volunteer training event. Now, you're not committing to anything right now, but does that sound interesting to you? Is it something that you feel you would benefit from? You could take back to your community some information. What do you think?
Perhaps it would be clarified if you identify what kind of training would be involved.
Well, that's a very good discussion, and I think that involves understanding what some of the interest and sort of what we hear from members of the public in terms of commitment to leadership. I mean, obviously, we need to talk about continuity, and we need to ensure that the positions within Friends of Urban Agriculture, work for the organization, and that we're all sort of in line and working with the same. So I think there's a lot to learn and share about how the work is going to be structured and organized, but some of that is still to be determined. Certainly, right? Please keep me informed as we get closer to the event. I mean, that's fair, right?
Yeah,
that's fair.
What
I would vote for that.
Yeah, what I think is important to remember, and that for everybody to remember, is that the work that FOUA is doing to promote urban agriculture is not just in schools. It's on private properties. It's on church properties. It's on even some business properties and public land as well. And so there are lots and lots of locations and opportunities for everybody to get involved in your own neighborhood.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll. And let's take a look here. So overall, I think folks would be interested. So if we can better define what we're gonna train on.
And beyond that, we're just the idea that the overwhelming sort of majority here is saying that keep me informed, or that I'm interested and that we'll be in touch. And I think that's important because that really that's part of the plan. If you're here tonight, it's because you read the e-news. If you're here tonight, it's because you cared enough to register. I mean, even that was a hurdle. You actually clicked register. Thank you.
David, if I may, one of the beyond gardening, because we are beyond gardening.
Yes.
One of the items that we thought about for this volunteer training is because we table a lot of events. We're going to be tabling at the Arlington County Fair. Right now, it's the board members who staff that table for the entire run of the county fair. We would like to, if we had people interested, we would like to be able to train others to be able to do these kind of tabling events. And every one of them is going to be different. So there there would be information specific to the tabling, each tabling event before that event. But just to, you know, the common things of put down your phone. How many times do you walk at a fair or another place and the person at their table is just sitting at there and playing with their phone? That's number one. Just put it away. You're there to engage with the public, be friendly, and you don't have to know everything. We're always going to have a pad of paper and you can write down their question and say, we'll get back to you. So
Do you
that's
have to wear a costume? Do you have to wear a pea costume or spotted lanternfly costume or something to get their attention?
we would love
Or
for
cool
people
hat.
that are interested in that to do it, but no, that is not a requirement.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what you can, I mean, no promises, but I'd like to see what you could come up with. Um,
Well, funny hat day is a requirement sometimes.
Funny hat day.
Well, you know, again, I think that this is you know, there are so many different ways to get involved. And again, from tabling to, you know, to writing the grants, to helping organize volunteers, other volunteers, to being individuals, leads, you know, taking individual ownership of initiatives and projects, you know, and as we talk about this committee structure, I think this is really important. We've learned a lesson through Plot Against Hunger that, you know, that there is a community of people who are deeply knowledgeable about how, you know, the program that they want to continue running. And sort of like, yes, that should be led by, you know, they should lead themselves. Similarly, we have a vision for incorporating more people in the process of leading their own initiatives, of working, and specifically, as we look at the policy, as we look into the policy and sort of the angle of how does this fit into the larger picture, this is just a discussion that really needs to involve other individuals. It needs to be, you know, thinking about networked relationships, and you know, really, how does FOUA mature as an organization in 2024 on to 2025, our 10-year anniversary, right? So as we're looking out to 2025, which will be 10 years, you know, we want to make sure that FOUA is on track and that there is a plan. What you've heard this evening is sort of the rollout, the start of that plan, and the process will continue for the remainder of this year. And you know, we look forward to working with each of you, having expressed interest. We know you to be supporters of this work, with the exception of the 7% who weren't really interested. I'm not going to name names. It's anonymous. I'm just joking. But no, we do. We're very grateful for all of your support. Were there any other closing questions or comments that we might have? Was there a last question for everyone, or anyone on the call? Otherwise, we might wrap this up.
Yeah, I think that's it. I put some email addresses in the chat in case you do think of something at 2 o'clock in the morning. You could email us, info@arlingtonurbanag.org or volunteer@arlingtonurbanag.org. If you've, whichever way you want to use, both, we monitor all of our email addresses. And that's it. If anything comes up, just send us a message, and yeah, that's it. So thank you very much for joining us tonight. Sure. Yes, Kim, we can have a chat. That'd be great. And so thank you everyone for joining us tonight.
I want to give a big shout out to Emily Landsman and David Sachs, who did the bulk of the planning for tonight's event. And thank you for everybody's energy on this.
What we heard this evening, just for context, so the people understand that it wasn't something that we just came up with. This has been the work of the collective board. We've all put our heads together and envisioned as part of a sort of our own internal organizing efforts. So this is a reflection, and even though our president isn't with us this evening, I know that Robin would agree that this is the collective effort, and that it's only possible because we are working together as a team. And so we look forward to, you know, to you joining us in this effort, this works. We look forward to moving forward with you as partners and hopefully as board members, definitely, hopefully as a treasurer, but you'll hear more from us soon. With that, any other closing comments? Great. Well, thanks, everyone. Thank you so
Thank you,
much for joining.
everybody. Good night.
You'll hear from us soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.